Hello everyone. Talks between American and Iranians are still ongoing. Today, while Vice President of America JD Vance on Fox News, he said that we want Iranians to give up on uranium enrichment for 20 years. In answer to that, Iranians want that they can give up on enrichment for 5 years, and that is the bone of contention between the negotiation. Now, this stumbling situation is developing, and we hope that some positivity comes out of this house. But let's talk about the situation that is little bit more critical. What happens if Iran does not surrender at the negotiation, or they do not show any flexibility, or they do not show any resolve on that table? Will the bombing start again? I don't think so as of now, because the way ceasefire has worked for 2 weeks and there has been no bombing since, it gives a lot of clarity that Americans are also serious in this situation. Because Iran, there's a lot of things that has been said and done. Even J.D. Vance has praised that there are a lot of significant developments happen, but there's only one point, and that we have already discussed. And he has also praised that Pakistani Army Chief General Asim Munir, Field Marshal, and Shehbaz Sharif has shown a lot of great hospitality, and they are a good state. But the situation is very delicate as of now because it is evolving every day, and both parties are showing no restraint because both parties are somehow required to have a face saving. More than Iran, America needs a face saving because on battlefield they have been brutally humiliated by Iran. If that was not the case, Americans would have never come onto the table. That's a fact. The New York Times has reported that Iranians have shown flexibility, and they are saying that for 5 years they can give up on the enrichment. But Americans are worried. They think no, it has to be 20 years. And also Iranians has put one demand, and that is that they will keep the oil in their hands and they will not give up on the oil. And that is also a worried sign for the Americans because they think that they may use this for the nuclear enrichment. Or from 60 to 90% once that goal has been achieved, once that milestone has been achieved, Americans believe that it would be a different ball game. The situation will become very difficult for them. Then the whole negotiations will be on equality, because once they are on 90% nuclear enrichment, they would be able to, create a nuclear bomb. And in worst case scenarios, American and Israelis could not even think of that. More than American, Israelis can never accept that situation. But there's a lot of other things that has been reported from the New York Times, and President Trump has criticized President Obama because he believed whatever is the situation that America is facing today, it is just because of Barack Obama, because he gave $150 billion to Iranians in 2015. There was an agreement, a yes law, and President Trump, that was the smartness of Iranians, because he believes the Iranians are smart, they are intelligent, they are good negotiators, and he criticized Obama as of now because he is trying to find a way to save his face, and he does not find any as of now. So he is trying to put everything on Obama as of now, rather taking some responsibility that he has been legally humiliated in this war. And if that situation continues and this negotiation fails, and until November this resolve does not find any way into the peaceful negotiation and peaceful permanent ceasefire, then Republicans and President Trump especially will be in a lot of trouble, because then the House and Senate will be into the hands of Democrats, and Democrats will use every leverage to impeach President Trump. And maybe he is the first president of the United States of America who would be impeached and taken out of the office. Who knows? Because as of now, Americans are hating Trump, at least on Democrat and on the left side. They think that America does not deserve people like, or president like President Trump, because everyone else believes that he is a slave to Israelis, and he is compromised to them. It is just because of the Epstein, class or Epstein impact. There's a lot of conspiracies you can actually put on yourself. But as of now, let's discuss why this situation is getting more difficult and more complex. Because Iran has a leverage as of now. Iran has a leverage that they have used to bring people who are most powerful, who were calling them animals, they were calling that they will be, the entire civilization will be taken out of the map. Now they are asking, they are negotiating, they are saying that we are we are flexible, we can talk about something, you give us something, we give you something, and then somehow we can reach to a middle ground. And Iran has also been very careful in this situation, because as of now they have a leverage, but if they don't use this leverage smartly, then that same leverage can change into their liability. And they have to be mindful of that situation. They don't want that for them. As of now, Americans are in a difficult situation because their allies are very desperate. And also there is one point, Mohammed bin Salman has also said during the conflict between Israel, America and Iran that Obama has gave $150 billion to Iran, but they did not develop a single state. Directly he was criticizing them that they were creating missiles and bombs, but they were not developing infrastructure in their country. But if we talk, somehow, in a geopolitics way, in a geopolitic landscape, Iranian did right. They were developing missiles because they eventually fought. If they had infrastructure developed, that infrastructure could have been taken out. Roads could be formed, bridges could be formed, which we have already seen. Power plant has been formed. Then there would have been no point to spend billions of dollars in infrastructure. In fact, they invested every dollar in their national security. And Saudis are seemingly very upset about the situation, that how Iran has pulled out of the situation and now bringing Americans onto the table and they are negotiating. Because UAE and Saudis were thinking that Iran could easily be pulled out, easily be taken out, regime could easily be collapsed. That doesn't happen. Now it seems that IRGC has a huge grip, at least on the ground, because we did not see any uprising in Iran. So let's see what happens. New York Times reported that Iranian has shown a lot of flexibility, and that was actually confirmed from the JD Bank. But JD Bank says that that's not enough for the peace negotiation or peace deal. They have to show some more flexibility. As of now, they are saying that we will give up for 5 years. But there could be middle ground for them, permanent solution. But Americans are worried in a situation that maybe they do the deal for 10 years. Maybe during that time they develop a nuclear bomb. The situation in developing a nuclear bomb is critical because from 60 to 90% is very easily achievable. And Iran is, as of now today, has 60% nuclear enrichment. And that is an alarming clock that has been ringing into the minds, or at least in the houses of Tel Aviv and Washington DC. They can't think of this. They don't want to think of this, that Iran has a nuclear bomb, because they believe that they are radical fanatics and radical lunatics or whatever in their own terminology. So situation is complex, but Pakistan has played very important role in this negotiation, and we are hearing from Pakistani news outlets that maybe negotiations again starts on Thursday or maybe end of this month. Look, this conflict is not in anyone's favor except Israel, because they believe that Iran is their existential threat. However, that story is very different from that. They have been bombing Iran. Iran could use the same, ideology or same rhetoric, same propaganda, that we have an existential threat from the Israelis, Christian Zionist or Judeo-Christian civilization in general. Let's see what happens, because if this war does not end by the November, then Republicans in America would maybe they will lose 2020 presidential election, and they can't pick up this paper. Let's see what happens. We will be discussing this situation.